Day 1. At 3 p.m. on August 8, the city of New York and the surrounding suburbs experienced a power outage. As a result, most people went home, causing gridlock throughout the boroughs, and bumper-to-bumper traffic all the way out to Riverhead. The internet is filled with various theories about the cause of the outage, and there are reports from far states like Texas and California about power outages spreading fear. All flights are grounded as thousands of passengers are left stranded. To handle the situation, all NYPD and NYFD personnel were called into work overtime. Despite the city being mostly locked down, some downtown areas saw a surge in cash-only nightlife and block parties, keeping the NYPD busy. The power outage led to a spike in fires caused by candles and poor cooking practices, making it difficult for the NYFD to respond due to the gridlock. Residents of Nassau and Suffolk had an exhausting commute home and went to sleep, hoping that the power would be restored by morning. Day 2 of no power. The morning starts quietly with most people staying home from work. Small business owners and the self-employed head into work to secure any assets they can, while the NYPD and other city officials activate emergency plans and organize their responses. Setting up shelters and preparing the logistics necessary to receive outside aid have become priorities. Hospitals and water pump stations petition the city for more fuel for their generators. Stranded travelers at the airports are camped out in the terminals. Stores and gas stations open for cash-only business. Panic buying quickly becomes dangerous in many intercity neighborhoods. Outright looting is only prevented by the strong presence of the NYPD. Wealthy people with places to stay out east leave the mayhem of the city. Panic buying is not limited to the city. In Nassau and Suffolk, the stores are stripped bare as block-long lines form around gas stations. The worst comes at midday when the internet won't refresh. People go to bed with a sinking feeling things may get worse before they get better. Day 3 with no power. The second night was sobering for the residents of Long Island. The yellow polygons indicate emergency shelters set up by the city, complete with cots and supplies. The red shaded areas are looting and crimes of opportunity zones, and police presence is thin. The blue shields show where the NYPD is gathering resources. As people panic, more looting becomes commonplace. Corporate chains and big box stores are easy targets, while many independent shop owners materialize hidden firearms to defend their shops. Many more people attempt to leave the city, and anyone with family or a place to stay in rural areas flee. Fires are left unchecked in the red shaded zones as the NYFD is spread thin and focuses on the shelters and streets patrolled by the NYPD. The stranded passengers at the airports are forced into nearby hotels, which are hellholes. The NCPD is mustered on the Queens County line and has a heavy presence in Freeport as its aged but independent power grid is still on. The NYPD, NYFD, Port Authority, and other city officials are in contact with the NCPD to ensure their families get safe passage to Nassau or Suffolk. Unruly panic buying of anything left on store shelves is present everywhere in Nassau and most of Suffolk. Nearly all gas stations have run dry. The North Shore is comparatively quiet, with its residents still waiting for their feeds to refresh and power to return. The SCPD has also come to full muster and started to secure valuable areas. As another black night falls, no outside aid has come, and the city workers at the shelters start to turn away desperate crowds. Day 4 of the blackout. After the third night of total darkness, the city has degenerated into mayhem. The yellow polygons are the shelters that have become a disorganized mob of desperate people. The blue polygons are currently being patrolled and monitored by a range of law enforcement agencies. These agencies have assumed the role of the primary security for city officials. The red shaded areas are looting and crimes of opportunity zones. The dark red areas are danger zones with home invasions and roving gangs. The rifle marker indicates clearing operations led by the NYPD. These operations lead to high casualties and much collateral damage. Crowds of people on foot continue to flow from Manhattan. Most water tanks have run dry as the August heat causes mass dehydration. The roads have become impassable. Abandoned cars chock the main streets out of the city. Staten Island blocked the Verrazano Bridge. Bridges to the north are also blocked. The NCPD is blocking traffic into Nassau County. Many residents of Nassau County who have any family or friends in Suffolk leave in hopes they will have a place to stay. The Freeport grid is shut off to conserve fuel. The NCPD and SCPD form tighter lines of communication as the idea of power coming back on becomes more remote. The securing of high-value sites in Suffolk and the stockpiling of resources is a top priority. Most of the residents of Greater Long Island still haven't left their homes, besides talking to their neighbors. The average family pantry has become halved. The average man starts to make alternative plans that are not always wholesome. Day 5 of the blackout. The yellow polygons are the shelters that have completely ceased helping anyone but have instead gathered people into angry mobs. The blue polygons are currently being patrolled and monitored by law enforcement agencies which have become dangerous to any civilians. The red shaded areas are looting and crimes of opportunity zones. The dark red areas are danger zones with home invasions and roving gangs. The green polygons are areas with organized armed citizen groups that have begun to fire on outsiders. The red polygons are overrun hospitals that have become a swamp of the dead and dying. The shelters that had an abundance of supplies are taken over by police forces to restore order. With the roads impassable and clean drinking water scarce, people take what they can carry and head away from the smoke and mobs in the more densely populated areas. Rikers Island, now overcrowded with new inmates, spirals into riots. Government forces consolidate their gains and conduct raids into commercial areas to confiscate supplies from warehouses. The NCPD, assisted by the SCPD, formed the Blue Wall in order to stop the flow of refugees out of the city. As water supply stops in more towns in Nassau County and food spoils, looting and crimes of opportunity spread. A second Blue Wall is quietly formed to protect the North Shore, where many of the families of law enforcement officials have been relocated. More people from Nassau pack up and head to the supposed farms out east. Many with boats and full fuel tanks make the decision to get as far away as they can. Government forces, including at the federal level, continue to consolidate goods and personnel at key locations across the island. With food low, their faucet dry, fuel for the generator spent, and no news but rumors from the neighbors. Many on Greater Long Island look to the local school for help. How has your town fared so far? Do you think my scenario is plausible? What would you do in this situation? What city should I do next? Day 6 of the blackout. The city is a sweltering desert in the August heat. Maddening thirst has the city by the throat and won't let go. Crowds of people move first to this promised FEMA site and then to that aid station, but all the rumors are lies. No help has come. The yellow polygon is the last semi-functioning shelter that is at its breaking point. The blue polygons are currently being patrolled and monitored by law enforcement. The red shaded areas are looting and crimes of opportunity zones. The dark red areas are danger zones with home invasions and roving gangs. The green polygons are areas with organized armed citizen groups. The red polygons are overrun hospitals. The red rifle icons indicate successful clearing operations, carried out by the forces of law. The skull and crossbones icon indicates that the troops never made it back and are presumed dead. The red feet icon indicates a violent and dangerous stampede of people. The orange feet icons are desperate mobs of refugees. Crime and violent opportunism are rampant among these groups. The 5 towns and Valley Stream are overrun and pillaged. The Blue Wall failed to stop the human wave from leaving the city. NCPD and SCPD officials shift focus to acquiring assets and relocating officers' families. The Blue Wall is reformed to further protect the North Shore. The blue warehouse icons indicate confiscation operations carried out by law forces, targeting fuel depots, food distributors, and pharmaceutical distributors. Some small business owners band together to prevent the confiscations resulting in firefights. It is abundantly clear to most of the residents of southern Nassau that it is time to leave. Boats are hobbled together. Sail, stolen gas, or even oars are used to avoid the streets. Gas is siphoned from abandoned cars to fuel any vehicle heading east. Neighbors pool resources and head out in makeshift convoys. The waters run out, and food is critical in the majority of homes out on Greater Long Island. Crime and looting seem like the only option for many. Local families gather at schools looking for answers or help. Some assertive people start to form localized planes to help the communities. Arguments flare as night falls. All the plans seem bad. Can't they just turn the power back on? It has been a week since darkness fell. The blue polygons are currently being patrolled and monitored by law enforcement. The red-shaded areas are looting and crimes of opportunity zones. The dark red areas are danger zones with home invasions and roving gangs. The green polygons are areas with organized armed citizen groups. The red polygons are overrun hospitals. The red rifle icons indicate successful clearing operations, carried out by the forces of law. The skull and crossbones icon indicates failed incursions leading to massacres. The red feet icon indicates violent and dangerous gangs of refugees. The orange feet icons are desperate mobs of refugees. The colored motorbikes are organized gangs that have restored a type of order they have primarily organized around race and use motorbikes for quick raids on the more passive residents of the boroughs. Gas, water, food, and women are their currency. In the blue areas, law enforcement consolidates their gains. Crowds crazed with thirst and hunger try to storm the barricades. Many rich neighborhoods are also targeted by these semi-organized mobs. The feds have shown up with promises of aid as long as allegiance is pledged to Washington. Their operatives are indicated by the eagle icon. The blue wall failed at Great Neck. The hordes broke through the line and pushed all the way to Kings Point. Their advance was only stopped by the slaughter of Spinney Hill. Masses of desperate people continue to push toward the farms out east. As law becomes a distant memory, violence has become the norm. The attempt to retake Hempstead was a quagmire, which got a lot of NCPD killed. The Battle of Hicksville went better with several footholds gained and vital warehouses secured. The large amount of refugees heading east continue. The orange tent icon indicates swelling populations of outsiders setting up camps in these towns. These camps are hubs of crime and violence which spills over into local communities. Law enforcement conducts confiscation raids throughout the Hamptons. Most suburban residents of Greater Long Island have little sense of community. No church or civic associations, and most don't even know where their town hall is. The school is the first place people gather to try to address local problems. Schools become the centers of the towns and begin to force conformity. But pooling supplies and punishing dissenters. This scenario is a complete grip-down situation. All of North America is out. That is why no outside aid came. This could have happened because of an adversary of the US making a virus to corrupt software used by power companies, or an advanced environmental terrorist group doing the same. The Amish might have done it too. You can't trust them, Amish. How has your town fared so far? Do you think my scenario is plausible? What would you do in this situation? What city should I do next?